Every week, The Chosen gives us a new YouTube video to check out all the behind the scenes that they're working on The Chosen. Obviously, every week has been really interesting so far and some unique perspectives, but this week we actually get a lot of insight, not only to maybe how Big James got hurt or what's kind of happening there, but also actually into Joanna and Claudia and how they're having a discussion. There's some really interesting things coming up for The Chosen Season 4. So let's jump into this video and check it out. Here we go.
There's nothing dangerous, just gotta go for it. Don't be scared. Just commit.
This week, Jelaine and I got to see the disciples get drenched again.
My latte!
Some familiar faces return.
What is connecting these two characters?
And The Chosen filmed on a new soundstage with some mysterious new sets.
Oh my God.
Something crazy Chris and I saw was The Chosen filming a scene backwards.
There's been an incident, and what it requires is all the disciples to be drenched.
The incident that he's talking about, I believe, is Big James getting hurt here. And so it's quite interesting. We're going to kind of dive into some scripture and maybe dive into this again, which is interesting because we've gone to the same chapter several times now. So things are kind of coming together with it. But it is kind of cool to see all of them, how they're doing this scene, how they're showing the aftermath of them kind of jumping in this water and being wet. When we saw this originally in the behind the scenes, we had no idea what was going on or how this could kind of be what is happening here. And so it's interesting to kind of see these things play out and maybe have a better understanding of what is happening here. So
She's gonna do it!
Oh, she's gonna do it?
Oh, yeah!
You did it! Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. By the time we dry and then have to do it again, like 10 times, it's gonna start to be more uncomfortable. But we've experienced worse.
Let's make it right.
So now comes the fun part. We already shot them drenched. Now we shoot what came before, which...
Now, let's note as well, that building that they are running into previously, if we go back, it looks like that building is the same one in which we saw them celebrating Hanukkah the week before. So, really interesting.
Let's make it right.
Here.
So now comes the...
Oop, let me go back. So this building here looks like it's the same one that we saw them celebrating Hanukkah in previously, which would make sense because we know that a lot of this other stuff happens right around that Hanukkah time or during Hanukkah. So, yeah, interesting. We'll talk about it in a second as we dive into scripture, but let's keep on going.
We've experienced worse.
Let's make it right.
So now comes the fun part. We already shot them drenched. Now we shoot what came before, which is them actually getting drenched in the water.
Our stunt guys have cleaned this, have walked through it, have done it all themselves. They've tested the depth and all that kind of thing. Everything's fine. It's still going to feel weird at times. Well, one time because we're only doing it once.
So they have to do this in one take. So right now, it's all these rehearsals running up to the water without going in and making sure they get staged in the right spot. So when we're ready to go, got it in one shot.
So just gotta go for it. Don't be scared. Just commit. It's gonna look weird if you don't.
Action!
Greg?
So if we look closely there, we can kind of go back and see a little bit of that. Looks like right here, we've got Big James being carried again. So it's that same kind of scene we saw previously. So he's definitely being carried there by different people. Looks like Simon and Jesus, like we saw previously in the behind the scenes. So that's interesting. And they kind of avoid it here. They're not showing us that happening there. Maybe they're just trying to hide that fact, but it's definitely there for sure.
Great, cut! Good job!
How do we get out?
So tonight,
how do we get out? Real quick, if you've never been to Israel before, there's a way easier and cheaper way to experience parts of Israel, and that is by subscribing to ARTZA. ARTZA is an amazing company that sends Israel to your home every single quarter. All you have to do is sign up for an annual subscription or a one-time subscription, and you can get a box sent to your house. Let me show you some of the stuff that's actually in here. Whether you're looking for spices to use for cooking, or lotions, or Dead Sea scrubs, or even handmade pottery directly from Israel, then this box has it all. All of these items are straight from Israel from local vendors that have their own businesses. So this is a great way to also just help support local ministries and local businesses within Israel. It's really an amazing thing overall. It's a win-win-win for everybody. You also get these cards, which show you landscapes of Israel, give you recipes for the items that you got in your box, as well as share with you how these vendors do what they do, give you a more personalized touch. It's really amazing. And every single box is unique in what it brings. It's themed by the specific area in Israel. So if you use our code SNIPE25, you can get 25% off these boxes, and I would love for you to check it out. Go ahead and click that link in the description down below and use code SNIPE25 for 25% off your order. Get out.
We got to see the return.
So this is an interesting discussion here as well. We're talking more about the Romans, which we've been talking about before. I believe it's called a triclinium or something like that. That this is basically a lounging dinner area. And so we talked about this previously. Just the design for it, the set design for it, and everything like that. But the Romans here are obviously having a banquet, the banquet for John the Baptist. Well, not for John the Baptist, but when John the Baptist dies here. So that's all connected. So Joanna's here, Claudia's here, Pilate's here, Herod is here, which is going to be really interesting meeting him for the first time. So some really interesting things.
Turn to familiar faces like Pilate and Claudia and Joanna.
You're just always
And Chuza's here as well, which is also super interesting to meet him for the first time.
going to make the choice, the pro-Jewish choice.
But something interesting caught our eye. Claudia and Joanna hanging out.
What is connecting these two characters?
Very unhappy marriages.
What a way to bond.
You're a woman of power, and yet there's a line that they gave me. I feel like a prop in this theater of power.
I feel like a prop in this theater of power. That's really, really interesting. And I bet she would feel that way, right? We know that from season 3, Chuza is also using other women and he has infidelity going on. So I wonder if this other woman we see at the table with them as well is like another mistress of his that he just has around. Maybe it's more common, especially for the elites of that time, to just have multiple women around them. I'm not sure. But she's obviously the wife of Chuza here, and she's a follower of Jesus now, so she would have a different understanding.
Amy, just a quick note. In this angle, I think it'll also play well if there are times when you're just...
So that, I believe, is Chuza right next to her, and then there's another woman next to him, so maybe that is like his mistress or something. That's what I'm saying there.
looking inward, directly in front of you.
She's seeing that there's more outside of her tiny little microcosmic wealthy bubble.
Tell me what he said.
The poor, the grieving, the meek, all elevated.
Blessed.
Her being exposed to the women in Jesus' circle, they participate and they're valued, and that's something she hasn't seen in her own culture. It's a whole new world. She's just like, wow.
It is a whole new world.
She just has never seen anything like this, and I think she's...
And I was trying to stop here, too, to see if there's any images of Herod or Herodias that we could see, but not really.
Experiencing love for the first time. Claudia and Joanna are standing up, these elevated women. They're literally above the masses, above the poor masses, but we're jealous.
You want more of this? Like, comment, and subscribe.
We are here at Southside Studios in downtown Dallas.
We got some.
So we saw this a few weeks ago, a couple months ago actually at this point, where when they were done filming in Texas, they went to, done filming in their fake Capernaum, they went to this studio because they needed specific studios built for these specific scenes. So really interesting stuff, some of it having to do with the banquet. The other stuff, I have a different theory for, so we'll talk about it when we get there.
Some incredible sets built, and we can't wait to check it out.
We're starting in here this morning. This will be our first set.
So we returned to this cell from season 3 because we're still filming stuff with John the Baptist. This show has gotten so big that our soundstage, it's full, and these sets, they're way bigger.
Why are we here and not in our regular soundstage?
So this season we were shooting episodic. They don't all play out at the same time, so we needed more space. So we ended up having to do 4 big sets here in Dallas at Southside Studio.
Episodic means basically that they're trying to film each episode one at a time, although they did do a bunch of stuff out of order. So there were a few scenes that they couldn't film episodically or like perfectly in order. But they tried to do that as much as they could. Even in this episode, you know how they're talking about they're filming things out of order for specific things, but they're trying to shoot one episode at a time, even though that doesn't always happen here.
Gotcha. Could we see those big sets?
Of course we can.
Let's go.
Let's start with the cave.
Okay, I'm already. What a way to start. Oh my God.
I love how she's acting surprised because I'm like 99.9% sure she's already read the scripts and knows exactly what's happening because she's mentioned that previously. So like she's acting surprised here, but it's kind of funny to see for sure.
They started with a big wood structure that you could see from the outside when we walked in, connected the whole thing with chicken wire, and then they sprayed the whole thing with foam insulation like you would put into a house. And then
that's pretty cool, but it's got to be a pain to take down, to disassemble for sure.
Layers and layers of paint. And we have an exterior of a cave in Utah that we're going to use for the exterior. And then these are the same color.
Yeah, the exterior cave we had seen previously when they were doing location scouting. One of the crew members actually posted a picture of it, which looks really, really cool. We're thinking, we thought originally that could be Caesarea Philippi. However, I'm thinking it's something else, which we'll talk about in just a second.
That were on the exterior that we matched for the interior.
So we're not actually using the exterior of this?
Correct. This is just the interior of the cave. So we're a little movie magic. We're going to go to...
So I think that cave, I think they're going to talk about it here in a second, or at least, blur it out or whatever. But I think this is most likely a flashback to David, is my guess. A flashback to David in maybe En-Gedi as he's cutting off Saul's kind of garment and basically saying, I could have killed you, but I didn't. So that's definitely a possibility, a flashback there, because I know David is going to be a pretty big part of this season. There's been a lot of moments where we've seen flashbacks of him or the actor coming to set for different reasons. So there's definitely a lot of evidence for that, but could be something else as well. Maybe John in the wilderness. I don't know. Could be other things, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so this is David's bedroom, basically, like his throne room, I guess you could call it. No, I don't think it's his throne room. I think this is like David's bedroom here. Yeah. So we saw this in the behind the scenes. There's a lot of lions, meaning like this is the lion of like Judah, sort of like that's the sort of mentality here. Lion, kingship, ruler sort of mentality. And so that kind of iconography has been everywhere that David has been so far, especially in The Chosen. And so, yeah, we see that here. So I think we're actually going to see David and Bathsheba's story play out a little bit more, and possibly even see David mourning for his child that is lost after the whole Bathsheba thing and the prophet coming and speaking with him and all that kind of stuff. Now here they're walking into a different set, which is Machiris. Looks like some sort of training ground for the dancer, Herodias' daughter, that's going to come in and dance for the party.
So here's the dance studio. Used some of the colors from the ruins that they found at Machiris.
In the break room, we found the musicians practicing the music they're going to do for the dance. And, as they're rehearsing the dance sequence that's coming, it's always fun to see Dallas, who is not a dancer, directing the dance scene, trying to picture.
That's cool though that we get to see the niece here. So that's her, I'm assuming. I mean, she's practicing through all this stuff, and we see this instructor behind her as well. So this is the first look that we're actually getting at her as an actress, which is pretty cool.
Dallas as a dancer, not sure that it works.
If she lands like this, and then puts the foot behind her, yes.
These ribbons will hang lower. Akis wanted stuff to be able to shoot through, and so we have some ribbons and stuff hanging down, and just to add a little more drama to it.
Yeah.
Drenched again, new character motivations, and new sets. And now, standing here on this empty set, it's crazy to me how fast time went by.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on Texas.
Which means...
Yep. So they're headed to Utah, and that's really, really interesting. But I wanted to bring out this chapter one more time. This is a chapter we've looked at 3 times now. 3 different times. So it looks like they're doing the majority of this chapter, and that would be John chapter 10. Now, we've talked about this previously, as we've seen Jesus talk about, I am the good shepherd in The Chosen. We're going to see that very soon. Also, it looks like there may be some other things in here that we're talking about, like Hanukkah, right? And so if we look at the end of this section, again, they sought to arrest him, but he escaped from their hands. He went away again across the Jordan to the place where John had been baptizing at first, and there he remained. And many came to him and said, John did no sign, but everything that John said about this man was true, and many believed in him there. So this, I think, is going to bring the crew to Perea. Like we've been talking about previously, Perea is that area that's across the Jordan. It's in that area that's near Machaerus. So everything could kind of be linked together here. And this is obviously at the end of John chapter 10 that could bring us into that Perea section of the Chosen this season, and that's really, really interesting. Of course, the reason why they would go across the Jordan is right here at the end of this, and so there's a lot of stuff kind of going on here that we could definitely see, a lot of evidence for a lot of this. So they're basically doing the entirety of John chapter 10, which is amazing to me. I love hearing that. I love seeing that. I love seeing everything mixed together here, seeing Hanukkah represented, seeing John chapter 10, I am the good shepherd represented, seeing them going over the Jordan. Obviously, that's them jumping into the water, right? So it makes a ton of sense to me. But yeah, what do you guys think? Really, really cool stuff here. I'm excited about Season 4 so much, and this YouTube video gave us a ton of insight into what's upcoming. If you want to see more from us, including behind the scenes from our Utah trip when we filmed with The Chosen Season 4, or full podcast episodes from our second channel, Better Not Easy, then we'd love for you to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/thisniplife. This is by far the best way that you can help to support our ministry and to get extra content from us if YouTube is just not enough. Anyway, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.